So for this unit I did a documentary and a promo video. I also did a short edit of the promo video, so I'll be going through them, looking at what I did and what I could improve. So this is the documentary. To start off with, I would have got a bit more footage outside and around his house instead of more the workshop. For the first 10 seconds of the documentary, I have a few clips of my favourite shots where they're really clear and in focus and nicely colour graded. As you can see on some of the shots, the camera movement is kind of slightly shaky, which next time I would try and improve, getting shots that are longer and taking more time and holding the camera still. This is so that it just makes it look like a better and more fresh, like clean edit.
Would have been something that would always be something that we'd played with and we'd done. And I had relative.
With the interview, I chose to do it inside because it's an interesting background and it was suitable for the time. But a few things that I would have changed was to have a different lens, so it had a shallow or a lower depth of field. So it kind of blurred the background out to make it look, so it focused more on the person I was interviewing. Also in the bottom left-hand corner on the sofa, I had to mask out some bags that I'd put on the sofa, which I'd forgotten about until after the interview. So I had to put a mask over that and then colour grade it to look like, so to make it disappear.
Lives all over the South Hams in South Devon, and to avoid the trawl of the ancient rallies, I used to go and spend time with my Uncle Mort, who was the youngest of my great uncles, and he had a lathe in his garage, and I used to spend hours and hours making things out of wood, round things. And
for the interview, I would have also changed the second camera angle. So because it's two different shots from the right side, it looks too similar. So next time I would, instead of having one camera from the right and the other camera further to the right, I would make it so one's from the right and one's from the left, making it just like a slightly more interesting interview.
All sorts of stuff. But I kept up with the wood turning, and it was something I used to thoroughly enjoy doing in my own leisure time.
Also for the camera angles and the camera shots, again, so because when I did it all handheld or with a monopod, I would I could use like a gimbal, and if that was too big, I'd maybe use a tripod for some of the shots I could do that for. But yeah, overall, I would have to take more time on each shot, and maybe if I had to retake it, just so it looked more professional and steady.
And making things, and when I had the opportunity, I bought myself my first lathe, and then subsequently inherited the lathe I'd learnt on, which was quite interesting. But it worked from there, really. With making pens are obviously very small in comparison to other things. With those, there's quite a lot of prep work involved. What we have to do is to cut the timber down to size to approximately the...
if I had more time, or if I could go do some more reshoots, I would see if I could get more of the whole process done and shot from from a plank of wood all the way through to the pen. This is so that I could have just a bit more B-roll to make it more interesting.
The size of the barrel that we need to make. We then need to drill a hole through the centre of the material to fit a barrel into it. That barrel is then glued in place and left to cure overnight as a mint.
If I could go back and colour grade and do more editing on this, I would have spent more time looking into it and seeing how I could colour grade it to make it look a bit more interesting, because in this shot, in parts it's a bit dark, and also I took a bowling light, but using that more for shots like this, that would have been more useful to just make it have a bit more contrast and colour.
Minimum, sometimes longer than that. Once it's cured, we can then level off the ends of the piece of wood so that it's ready to fit on what we call a mandrel. A mandrel is a rod that connects the two ends of the lathe, and we then fit it onto that.
If I could go back and refilm, I would get more B-roll for more of the specific things, like the mandrel, and some more of the more specific equipment that he used. I also would have got more footage of him doing what he needs to do with the tools, just to make it look like he's the one that's doing it.
There with what we call bushings, and bushings basically are spacers or little pieces of metal which create a firm base for the piece of wood to be held on the lathe. We can then turn them.
What was nice about the setup for the pen turning or the wood turning is that he used his own lights, and having that on right over the top of the wood was good, because it gave the contrast and the focus. On some of the shots, I had to do another mask over the fingers, so instead of having the focus and really sharp on his thumb, I'd have it focused more on the pen. So yeah, just to make sure the focus was right.
And remove all of the excess material, so taking it from a square piece of timber or a rectangular piece of timber down to a very, not narrow, but the right size cylinder.
With this interview, on parts of it, this on the right side of the screen, where it was really bright outside, it was shining in, and it almost looked blindingly white, which wasn't good because it just gave too much contrast, and I had to mask that over and bring it down a bit, so altogether it looked slightly nicer.
And then we go through a process of polishing it, or sanding it and polishing it, finishing it with a lacquer. It has anything up to about 10 coats of that lacquer to ensure that it's going to be fit for purpose. And then we can put the fittings into it, and there's the pen.
Going back to going through the edit, I think I would have changed the audio, because there, going from the interview to the B-roll, the audio volume goes up quite considerably, and I think that jump is a bit too big, so I would bring that down a bit, just so it kind of runs smoother.
One of the biggest challenges is storage, so hence if you look around the back of our house, there's quite a lot of wood in.
Also, if I was going to film more, I would have shot some more footage of the finished product, because I've only got a few shots of the product, and it would have been nice to have just more footage to show that this is the process, but this is also what we're making. To just show more footage at the end or during the documentary.
Various places, and we have to store it and season it. The wood has to, if it's been planked, it has to season for a year per 25mm plus a year.
Again, there I would have changed the audio level so it stayed slightly steadier instead of going increasing in volume quite considerably.
Occasionally I'm after something a little bit different, because the other thing we do use is what we term historic woods, so things...
With the comment he made about the historic woods, he showed me some of the wood that he used, and what I would have liked to do is capture a bit more of that. So if I could have gone back and done more shoots with him, I would have added on, got like a tripod and set up just to sit, like, as he went through the different woods and where they came from. So I could put it in the documentary.
Like whiskey barrels that have no longer being used for making whiskey. The staves, whiskey barrels are normally made from oak, and the staves are very good for making things out of.
For the interview, I wanted to make sure I had the right audio that I needed, so I used quite a few different mics. I had the Rode mic, the Go Wireless, the Rode Wireless Go 2 on him. I also used the camera mic and the on-camera mic. This is just so that I could have a few backups just in case the main audio failed, which turned out to be good because we couldn't get some of the audio off the Rode Wireless Go 2 mics, and we had to contact Rode directly to retrieve that audio. But because we had the backups, it was fine.
They're normally well seasoned because that would be possibly.
Also here with the audio, I would have brought the volume down so you could hear him more clearly, and instead of the volume being too high and kind of drowning out the interview.
Made anything up to about 30 years ago, so the wood is nice for turning, and to use that.
I would have also liked to get a bit more of the wood or acrylics that he used before they were cut or anything like that. Like here, we have a few boxes of the acrylic, or the acrylic with the wood. Like having more footage of the final product, it'd be nice to have more footage of what it looked like before and after, kind of thing.
One of the things that I love working with is wood which has got natural markings or is damp.
Another thing that if I had longer time to do it, it would have been interesting to have more recording of him talking whilst doing what he was doing, but after miking him up in his workshop, because we were there for so long, it became kind of impossible to get the footage that I needed with him talking, because the process took too long to have to wait for each time. So so the SD cards filled up too quickly, so I had to stop that.
Damaged in some way, so it's much nicer for me if the wood is telling a story in the sense that it's showing how it's lived, and for me to try and work with that. So it might be that it's a bowl or a clock or something with a lot of what we call natural edge, so showing still the bark and the natural damage that you find in wood, rather than something which is absolutely perfect.
So that was my my documentary, and I think that turned out quite well. I had lots of footage that was shot with lots of different lenses, like the macro lens, the kit lens. I also had monopod, 2 different lenses, and going with all that kit, I had to prepare, which I think I did quite well, which overall helped a lot because it showed me what I needed to get before I got there, and that just made it possible to run smoother overall, which was quite nice. So after I did the documentary, I did a promo video, and I started off with doing a 1-minute promo video where I started off by going through all my footage and pulling out 3-4 second clips, or however long, from every piece of footage, just so I had my best bits in one timeline. Then I got a song and slowly cut to the beat, and the promo video started to get started to form quite well. So this is the promo video. And again with the camera, I should have used something else like a gimbal, just to make it kind of a steadier look. And again here, I needed to get more of the final product, because it just shows, because the final product is what the buyer or customer wants, and I should have got more footage of that. Yeah, so it looked more professional, and so the buyer knew what they wanted to get. With the edits, I did lots of colour grading and added a few filters and a vignette. This was good, and I tried to get a kind of earthy, woody kind of a feel to it. So dark browns, high contrast kind of natural colours, and bring out all those kind of themes. I think this went really well. To give the overall edit a single theme and appeal to the audience. I shortened down the edit from 1 minute to 40 seconds because after getting feedback from other people, I was able to, and also noticing that because the song was kind of going on and on, it felt like by the end of it, you're kind of bored of the song and therefore bored of the edit, which I wanted to cut down. So from that, I decided to get a 40-second edit to get all my best bits and see where it went. During this edit, because I wanted to get it completely right and have the setup and the style all exactly the same, I had to cut out some of the shots that I would have really liked that could have been important for the edit, like outside the workshop looking in, or showing the wood being stored, which I had to cut out because it didn't look like it fit with the rest of the footage. But even without that, I think it looked good. On one of the pieces of footage I had just then, I put a warp stabilizer on the clip because it was quite shaky, but looking back at that now, I think it might have been better if I cut that shot out because you can clearly see it's like a ripple through the screen, which kind of ruins the kind of look of that shot. Or I could have replaced it, but this is why I think it's important for me to take a bit more time on each shot when I'm filming it, so I get it right, and instead of having like a shaky shot that I'd have to edit to look good, just to have take an extra 10 seconds just to improve that. So they were my 3 edits of the product. I think they went really well, and I learned quite a lot of really useful skills, and also it showed me the importance of planning and also using a variety of kit, because if I hadn't have used, let's say, like the macro lens, I couldn't have got the if I hadn't used the macro lens, I couldn't have been able to use shots that are really close up and detailed. I also was able to slow some of the shots down to make it look more cinematic and entertaining. But yeah, overall, and from the feedback I've got, I think this project went really well.